Should be just one more second. I've got a loading screen here.
All right.
And now we're good. All right.
Okay. I'm going to welcome everyone who has joined us either via Zoom or on Facebook. Thanks for joining us for the April 2021 meeting of the Tarrant County Food Policy Council. If you actually are on either platform, if you don't mind telling us who's here. If you're on Zoom, introduce yourself in the chat and tell us your name. And if you're with an organization, you can mention that as well. And for those of you on Facebook, if you're out there, you can do the same thing in the comments. If you have questions as we're going through the presentations today, just pop those in the chat box and one of us will be monitoring that. And we'll answer those as we go through the different parts of the meeting today. And then at the end, we'll have another opportunity to share what's going on. For those of you on Zoom with us, you can, we'll give you access and a chance to speak if you have some things to share. So we have a few things coming up today. We've got some reports from officers and working groups, and we have a guest presentation from the Catholic Charities Fort Worth Disaster Response and Team 76104. Jay Simple and Victoria Nelson from that project will be talking with us. And then we will have some review of what's been going on. All right, I'm going to kick it off with another comment. I'm going to comment again about the beautiful day. Gina, thank you for pointing that out, helping us all. I get to look out the window. I hope you all do too. I don't think I have anything specific to share, except it feels like there's some fantastic momentum for the Food Policy Council right now. We're working on adding a VISTA volunteer, AmeriCorps VISTA volunteer to our ranks, who will be helping with some of the details and helping support the working groups and some of the other activities. I think there are a couple other projects that we're probably not ready to talk about yet that are coming up and that we'll be involved in doing. So that's pretty exciting. Becca, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Do just a quick little tidbit, and I've shared this information with a lot of our university contacts, but we do have at the Tarrant Area Food Bank an opportunity for summer interns, a community food system internship. We're accepting 4 interns this year, so I put the link in the chat. So if you know any college students who would be interested in learning more about community nutrition work, a lot of garden work and farmers market nutrition program support. We are looking for 4 students. It does have to be in coordination with some sort of college credit, as it is an unpaid experience this year. We're hoping to change that next year. But that is listed there in the chat box. And there's also a nutrition educator position listed on our careers page as well. So if you know anyone who would be interested, we are doing a little bit of hiring. There's some other positions that are listed also that are less related to what we do here in this group, but feel free to check those out and share it widely.
Okay, fantastic. Harrison, do you have anything as secretary to share?
Hey everyone, Harrison Gibson of Taste Project and Taste Community Restaurant here in Fort Worth. Just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's good to see everybody. And I'd just like everyone to note that our next meeting is Thursday, June 3rd at 4 p.m. So please mark your calendars for that. We'll send out a meeting announcement for that a little bit closer to it, of course, and we'll also send out a meeting recap after this with the video included in it in case anyone wants to use it as a reference for anything said today or to share it with anyone else. And if you would like to be on our email list, then please feel free to leave your email in the comments section and I'll add you to the list. Otherwise, feel free to email us at tarrantcountyfoodpolicycouncil@gmail.com and we'll get you signed up. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Harrison. All right. Okay, we are going to move on to our guest presenters today. Victoria, since you are a Food Policy Council member and active participant, I'm gonna turn it to you to get it started and introduce yourselves.
Great, thank you, absolutely. Hi everybody. I think we've all met before, but I'm Victoria Nelson and I work at Catholic Charities Fort Worth as our Director of Corporate and Community Engagement. And I'm joined by Jay Semple today, who's our Manager of Faith-Based and Community Partnerships. And he's also manager of our disaster program, which you'll hear a lot more about today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll kick us off, and then I'll turn it over to Jay to dive into the good stuff for the Food Policy Council. But we're really excited to be here and presenting to you guys today and expand on what we have shared before. So let me go ahead and do this. All righty. So welcome to Catholic Charities Fort Worth. We wish we could, maybe host this meeting in person for y'all, but virtual will have to do today. One of the most common questions we have is Catholic Charities just for Catholics, or is it just in Fort Worth? And despite the name, the answer there is actually no. Okay, we serve because of our faith, but you don't have to be Catholic to work or to be served by Catholic Charities. And we do serve the 28 counties within the Fort Worth Diocese. So looking at this map, you can see those specific areas that we cover. And so even though today this is the Tarrant County Food Policy Council, please know for yourselves and those you serve that we really do serve this whole area in North Texas. The focus of our agency is on ending poverty among the families that we serve, because we create, we eradicate, and we transform. So really briefly, I promise, what does that mean? We create, we know that research and innovation is key to ending poverty. So an example of this is our Padua pilot, which is an intensive case management model we designed with the flexibility and strategic financial assistance that's lacking in traditional programs. And unlike traditional programs, we measure our results using research partners, such as the University of Notre Dame. So I'm a little bit of a science nerd, and I love that we do randomized controlled trials like this one to make sure that our interventions are working. In this case, the research showed that our clients increased their labor market earnings by nearly 32% in 1 year. And our economist partners said they know of no other similar intervention showing those kinds of results in the time frame. And we're using what we learned there to improve our services agency-wide. So this is an example of when we create, big change happens. Next was we eradicate. We know that eradicating poverty won't happen by handing out money and sending families on their way. So we treat our clients as individual and customize support based on their needs, goals, and circumstances. An example of this is our Refugee Resettlement program. We work with newly resettled refugees, serving them comprehensively, providing job training, culture acclimation classes, language help, and more. So the results speak for themselves. 100% of our refugee clients are self-sufficient within the first 6 months of setting foot, usually at DFW Airport. Last but not least, we transform. We export the solutions that we develop to others. We testify on public policy issues, and we invite others to learn from us. So an example of this is our Stay the Course program at Tarrant County College. This is another research effort we created in partnership with Notre Dame to test if providing community college students a case manager would decrease the high dropout rates. You may not know this, or you may, but community college completion rates around the country is only 12%. So for those who've set out to complete a certificate or a degree at Tarrant County College and at other school community colleges around our diocese, we want them to be able to help reach those goals. And so we found that our students increased their graduation rates by a factor of 4 compared to the control group. And what was even more amazing is that 35% of our female students graduated as compared to less than 1% in the control group. So we desire to transform not just here in Fort Worth, but around the nation. So when we talk about getting out of poverty, you know, our goal is really to have no repeat customers. And that's why we define being out of poverty in such an aggressive manner. And you'll see that definition here. This is a big task ahead of us because when we set this goal, 33% of Tarrant County did not meet this definition. And that's only increased because of the pandemic and the winter storm, which we'll be talking about today. So the biggest way is to help us reach our goals, our referrals into our program sustainability. So that's where I spend a lot of time in fundraising, but also new partnerships, business for our social enterprises that I'll touch on in a second, and case managers. We're always looking for talented staff. These are our 4 businesses that we run out of Catholic Charities Fort Worth. We have a translation and interpretation network that is providing, we already were before the pandemic doing video services, also in-person translation. We have our transportation services, which is actually the 2nd largest provider of transportation in the county after Trinity Metro. Last year, well, before the pandemic, we provided around 90,000 rides a year. And last year we teamed up with the food bank to deliver food as well as Meals on Wheels to those who are in need. So definitely encourage your community partners to check that out as a way to see if they can get to work, to school, to medical appointments, and to other things. We have a full service dental practice on our campus. It's low cost and, like I said, full service. So everything from a cleaning to a root canal, we know how important that is to our whole body health. We also offer immigration services. For several decades, we've been providing immigration services for families who need our help. All right, and with that, that was a crash course in Catholic Charities, but just kind of wanted to give you the overall who we are. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jay Semple, and I'll continue to run the slides here, Jay. And he's going to share with you about our disaster response as well as Team 76104 efforts.
Thanks so much, Victoria. You know, last time I remember doing a presentation where someone else was clicking for me on the PowerPoint. I did a poll with the audience and said, so how do you guys want me to alert everyone or alert the person that it's time to change the slide? And someone screamed out, wiggle. And I actually did that. And so I'm just starting this with a funny story. I'm not going to do a poll right now, but I actually did. I wiggled before I was ready for every slide. This is our disaster response program. I've had the privilege to lead our disaster response program at Catholic Charities for the past 2 years now. And what's really great is my predecessor still works at Catholic Charities, and so her and I still work really closely together and still do presentations together, actually. And so really what we do at Catholic Charities with our disaster response is we are all about long-term recovery. So we support the folks that do first response, and anybody you may think of when you think of a disaster, Salvation Army, Red Cross, Goodwill, so many do great work in that first response phase. But we come along after that and really start working long-term recovery. And so I'm going to talk a lot about that later today because we're of the winter storm response we're actively responding to right now. So the purpose of our program is to serve people affected by disasters and return them to self-sufficiency by collaborating with community organizations, which, you know, doing a presentation like this is another way we can collaborate with organizations so people know what we do and how we're serving the community. In 2020, we responded to 4 different disasters, and that looked very different with each disaster, but it started with COVID-19, or, you know, there was a tornado in Bowie, Texas. Victoria mentioned earlier, that we serve our whole diocese, which is counties. So when one of our counties or a town in one of the counties is affected in any way, we go and we serve. And so we went out and we met with folks and did small financial assistance, met small financial assistance needs, like giving out Walmart gift cards, for example, just as a small way to support that community. And then along those lines, we gave them the information to call our agency to request rental assistance, utility assistance. So really thinking about short-term and long-term and how we were meeting the needs of the community. Of course, like I just said, we respond 100% of the time to local disasters in our 28 county diocese. And so I'm going to talk about this too, but I'll just add that here. I mentioned 4 disasters we responded to. 2 of those were hurricanes. We didn't have any hurricanes in our diocese, but people came from hurricane affected communities to Fort Worth and Tarrant County. And so I'm a part of our VOAD, our voluntary organizations that are active in disaster. And so I got to be a part of serving those families. Came in and we're staying in the hotels here in Fort Worth and in Tarrant County. We train and prepare volunteers. And so if you know someone that is, I know a lot of us work with volunteers and recruit volunteers, and that's exactly what we did for our program, and what we continue to do for our program is we recruit and we train volunteers, and that's how we serve the community. So I lead those efforts and train, and Victoria and I work together with those volunteers to equip them and make sure they are ready to be able to serve the community well. We have some amazing volunteers that have stepped up and served throughout the years. And so we directly, Victoria mentioned ending poverty. And so our vision in disaster response is to end poverty one family at a time by helping to provide access to resources for people in need. And we want to provide that short-term and long-term. And this is just a quick kind of showing our part of emergency management when we talk about our disaster response program. We work really closely with the City of Fort Worth Office of Emergency Management and the Tarrant County Office of Emergency Management. And so a lot of the things I'm learning and I've learned over the years is working with those emergency managers and understanding our policies and procedures as a city and as a county, and getting to be a part of that and not standing in the background and being hands off, but really learning how can we as a nonprofit community in our VOAD serve so that we can all work together and coordinate our efforts. So we're always in preparedness mode. Moving into that response mode when we're ready to respond. And so we are prepared. You know, I always talk to Victoria about, I always feel like I can always be better prepared when we actually move into a response. And so looking back, kind of making those lessons learned notes, and so we can prepare better in the future. And we want to help move people into recovery always. We are sticking with them for however long it takes. You may remember Hurricane Harvey in Houston. We still have folks that we're serving at Catholic Charities Fort Worth that were in Hurricane Harvey. So when we talk about long-term recovery, we really mean long-term. And then of course, moving into prevention, mitigation, and education and disaster presentations is always great opportunities for that. We really want to educate the community as we believe it's the role of the community to prepare for the disaster, to respond, to recover, and to learn from the disaster. I think we can all relate to the winter storm that we just experienced. I know in my neighborhood, we were sharing buckets of water across the street because some of us had water and some of us didn't. And so we really came together as a community. I wasn't disaster program manager at that point. I was a homeowner that needed assistance, and we really came together. And so it's really key to look at the community as a whole of how we all prepare, and not think that the disaster agencies take care of all of that, but how we are all part of this recovery effort. And so talking about our VOAD, you may have heard of this, you may not have. If you Google VOAD, you'll come straight to our national VOAD. So this program has been around since the 70s, and it's exactly what it sounds like. There was chaos in organizing nonprofits when disasters hit. And so they came together to say, let's all coordinate our efforts all together and create this VOAD that we meet on a regular basis. And it's made up of a lot of different organizations. And I believe our Tarrant County VOAD is very successful. And I think we have a great coordination effort. And right now, we're actually in our VOAD. Yeah, that was fine, Victoria. I set up Slack, if some of you guys have used Slack, as a platform for our VOAD partners to communicate. And I just got a Slack message last night from someone that's with Team Rubicon, which is one of our VOAD partners, about vaccine coordination and volunteers needed. And it's such a great way for us to communicate and meet those needs, because there's volunteer agencies over here that are looking for opportunities, and then volunteer agencies over here that need those. So it's worked out really well. I talked about long-term recovery. Occurs 2 weeks up to 2 years. We're really working as case manager holistically, meeting all the needs of the families. This is not something that is just about a disaster need, like a financial assistance for pipe repair, but there may be so many different pieces to this that family was affected. And so we're really going to walk with them through this and keep calling and keep sticking around, even when we're virtual only, to be able to meet their needs. You know, when you recover from a disaster, we really, I believe language is really important. You know, I was in homeless services for a long time, and I really see how we changed the trajectory of how we talk about people experiencing homelessness and saying people experiencing homelessness. I hear that so much now versus the homeless guy. So when we talk about disaster, we talk about survivors. We don't talk about victims. And so when you come out of a disaster and you're in recovery mode, you are a survivor. So, you know, that's the first word I see there in the bullet point. And I just wanted to make that point. But, you know, we help them apply for FEMA. We help them understand that application process and walk with them through that. Understanding referrals. Just want to say, call 211. We want to work with 211 and that be a resource for our clients that we're serving, but not be the only thing, but be a part of everything we're helping them with. So going to our 2021 winter storm recovery, we've, you know, as of today, we enrolled 53 families. We're working with, if you've been following news coverage, we have 4 apartment complexes in Fort Worth right now that still don't have water. You know, those large apartment complexes lost a lot of their pipes. And they're having to completely remodel. And so people just have to move out. They're evicting large portions of their units, if not the whole entire complex. And people are being forced out. And we're working with them to get rehoused, working with the city of Fort Worth, working with FEMA to help people get back into where they need to be and where they want to be, and really letting them lead that process and helping them along the way. We've trained volunteers to help us do that. And just the partners have been really incredible in meeting the needs of the community. And before I go into Team 76104 and kind of do a quick recap and then go into kind of where we are now, did anyone have any questions specifically about our disaster response program, or right now our 2021 winter storm recovery program, or just how we've responded to COVID-19? I haven't been looking at the chat. Maybe Victoria, if people wanted to write their question in the chat, that may be a better way to do question and answer time.
Nothing in the chat so far, but I put the link for Texas VOAD, and I'm going to put the number anyone can call if you need help for the disaster recovery. Yes, you can call into us.
Yes,
so, yeah,
that's great. Thank you. So yeah, going to Team 76104, we've had a lot of really great successes over the time we've been serving this community. I just got off a call with a lot of community leaders and church leaders to talk about 76104 specifically in the vaccine clinic response. We have a lot of vaccine registrations going on, but not a lot of actual clinics happening in 76104. And so if you read the Star Telegram, you saw the same series I did at the same time. I live in 76104, and also being in disaster response, I was reading this article about our zip code in Fort Worth being the zip code with the lowest life expectancy rate for the entire state of Texas. So you can go back and Google 76104 Star Telegram and read through that series. Nicole did a really great job of reporting the history and where we are now. And so we got together, mainly a group of faith leaders, and started phone calls of how we can meet the needs of the community. UT Southwestern had done the study on life expectancy and did a lot of really great work. And they've been involved with our Team 76104 now, been on some of our calls. And we're continuing to listen for the need instead of deciding and assuming what the need is. We really want to get into the community, spend time in the community, which is difficult when you're virtual, but I think we're doing a pretty good job of it now, and really listening for the needs of the community. And so kind of giving you an update of where we are now. If you saw, again, in the Star Telegram, I believe this was printed right before they had the clinic, but on March 20th, the Mercy Clinic, which is, I see that question. That's a really great question, Sadie. Sadie, are you somebody that asks really good questions like that? And I am trying to think of how I'm going to answer that. Maybe that's like your thing. I don't know. But I think one thing I would say is something we've done really well is partner with people that have already run the data, that have already run the numbers and are seeing what's happening. I actually went to the Economic Development Director, Robert Stearns, the city of Fort Worth, and said, hey, can we just get a demographic list of everyone that lives in 76104? And he sent it to me the same day. So, I mean, that was really easy to get, just demographics alone. And working with healthcare partners, I think we're gonna really do a really good job of collecting the data. I think we're gonna need to get a better idea, a better handle on where we're at and how we're gonna, as a group of faith leaders, and it just kind of started this this group and this movement, really.
Yeah, and that's the point I want to drive home. And I think this may help answer Sadie's question too, is that this is not Jay leading the effort or Catholic Charities Fort Worth leading the effort. Like, Jay has been the one to maybe like gather us for calls and things like that. But this really is one of those authentic come from the community type of groups. So when he says faith leaders, like, these are the leaders of the congregations of all denominations who are seeing the need in their community and saying, we want to do something about it, or we can do something about it. And this team 76104 is standing for together, everyone achieves more. Like, it's literally, you know, this collaborative effort. And so it may not be necessarily on that side of it, like scientific data collection, but it's rather than someone external coming in to say, this is what we need. You know, it's really coming from the community. So thanks.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. And I think what's really exciting about this is I did have really good friends in the community that were pastors or faith leaders, but how easy it was to call friends and everyone agreeing that we need to do something, and how many people show up to every meeting and how much we get done. And so it's really that we can model this. And I know it kind of happened with LBT Rise, if you're familiar with that story as well. But how we came together and we're focused on a really small group in a small area, I think is really important. It's not too overwhelming in that sense. However, I think just in 76104 on the east side of 76104 of 35, there's 41 churches. And so we have a lot of work to do as we partner with churches, with businesses, with schools. But yeah, I think it's been really exciting. Mercy Clinic did a pop-up clinic on March 20th. They did diabetes screening. Tarrant Area Food Bank was there doing SNAP benefits. There's just a lot of services offered. So we're really excited about that. Becca, I don't know if you have a lot of information on this or if anybody else is on the call, but Tarrant Area Food Bank has a new effort called RED. It's going to actually be a RED bus. And Edward Washington is leading that effort. But RED standing for Resource Education Delivered. We're really excited that Julie Butner early on came into 76104 and was talking about this. And so we really are excited because we know that this can come into 76104 as one of the first places they deliver these kinds of resources. And so we're going to talk to Edward a little bit about some locations in 76104. We think the bus could be really useful, and he seemed really excited about that. He was just on the call the first time last week, or last call. Community Crossroads, which works with First Presbyterian in Blue Zones. Community Crossroads went to Blue Zones and worked a vaccine registration that came out of those 76104 calls. Also, they worked with the Boys and Girls Club, the Panther branch, on some food pantry partnerships. And then Blue Zone Pantries worked with Van Zandt and Fortress YDC to get those food pantries going. And so just really exciting things happening, not just because of our group, but a big part of it is coordinating and educating the community of what's happening and continuing to get the word out and how we can continue to work closely together. We continue inviting people and saying, please, if you know someone that lives here or that works here or serves this community, please invite them to the call. We've had more and more people just show up and really listen for the need where they could fit. And it's been really cool to see that there's no pressure to stay engaged, but if you see that you've got a place there, please keep coming back. And we've got a lot of work to do. And then we've decided, to continue our bi-monthly calls, twice a month calls through June, I think is when I scheduled it. And actually a call I just got off of, because we have Team 76104, I have so many people with me that know what we're doing, or they're on calls and they're talking about it too. But for example, we had a call with Judge Whitley's office and Tarrant churches together, and I talked about our Team 76104 initiative and how can we get a vaccine clinic like Stop 6 has had and LBT Rise has had. How do we get that in 76104? This is, we already know the data. We already know the entire state of Texas, and 76104 is in disaster response mode, is really how I'm seeing it. And so we're moving on that. So if anybody has a health science center connection, that would be really great to get that. I do have some. I think Selena is somebody that you guys work with, and I knew a couple of others, but please put that in the chat and give me, but I have a name that Judge Whitley gave me, so all that to say. Cool, thank you. So goals moving forward. If you're interested in coming and being a part of 76104, Team 76104, and your agency hasn't been represented, Harrison, I can see you. I can't see anyone else. Jeff's been on every call. Jeff Williams, Taste Project. But goals moving forward, keep inviting, keep talking about this. If you know or hear someone that's a part of 76104 in some kind of way, Grow Southeast is a big part of our conversation. Linda Fulmer has been on every call, and a lot of great things are happening with her. I know Taste Project is working with Opal Farms and doing some really cool stuff there. So exciting to hear those kinds of things. We're wanting to engage more residents, more businesses, more churches. We're moving into focusing more on healthcare and economic development as we're continuing to invite more partners. We want to coordinate field trips. Grow Southeast gardens as a whole, we'd love to do some trips there to different gardens. And then we've talked also about Mission Waco. Their Jubilee Market has done some really amazing things in Waco, as well as Bonton Farms in Dallas. And I'm so sorry if I went over time. I was looking at my watch and looking at Victoria's face and trying to see if I was going way over. So thank you.
I think we're okay. I'm glad we could present all that info to you guys. And thank you, Jay, for doing such a wonderful job and in the community and with this presentation. Does anybody have any questions before we turn it back over? Looks good. Well, I put Jay's email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to either of us, and thank you for the time today.
Thank you all for being here to share with us. That's a fantastic overview. I've sat in on a couple of the meetings as I've been able to, and look forward to being involved in more. But it is, I mean, you come into the meeting and it's a little bit of a fire hose of information. And so this is a great overview of the big picture. So it's really good. Thank you. And if you guys think of any questions as we go through, you're welcome to put those in the chat and we can still get those answered. We're going to move on. First I want to welcome Brenda Patton back from maternity leave. We're so glad you're back. I'm glad you got time off, but I'm also glad you're back. Okay, we have some working group updates, and I'm going to call on the Community Gardens and Urban Agriculture Working Group to speak next.
Awesome. Hey, I'm Charlie Blaylock. I'm from Shine's Farm Stand. That's my farm, and you can find me all the time at Cowtown Farmers Market. So this fits everything I have to say fits in a lot with what Jay was just talking about, which is pretty fantastic. Our meeting this month, we had Allison and Patrice from the Southside Community Gardens come and talk about all the great work they're doing. They developed that in response to Tatiana Jefferson being killed in her home by a police officer. And in the wake of that, one of the things that they saw was to help was building community. And so instead of a model like that we think of where everyone goes to an empty lot in the neighborhood and does a community garden there, they're building individual boxes at everyone's houses. And that's turned out to be a great model because they'll build a box in a garden bed in someone's front yard or backyard, and that person will let their neighbors know, and then they build one for the neighbor, and it winds up with the neighbors talking to each other about how they're going to manage their garden boxes. And it surprised me how much it's done for developing the community. The very first garden they built was for James Smith, who was dealing with the guilt of having called the police because her door was open. And so the first one they wanted to do as a healing garden for him, which has worked out really well. They build 4x8 garden beds about 12 inches deep. It's a yard and a half of compost. They're getting it all from all of their resources are coming from GoFundMe, community members, people in Fort Worth who are contributing. It's a really fantastic project. They're making a lot of impact. And if you want to volunteer with them, I think their Facebook page is the best way to get a hold of them. Okay, so I'm 90% sure their Facebook page is the best way to get a hold of them. If there's another way, I don't know what it is. So if you want to volunteer with that, that's fantastic. We had our usual updates from Grow Southeast. Opal's Farm is producing and expanding and always has room for volunteers. Opal's Farm and Mind Your Garden Urban Farm are both diverting a lot of food waste from Food Lion that they're turning into compost to develop soil health at their farms, which is pretty cool. And we're working really intensely on Tabor Farms, Great Mountain Church. We're actually trying to get them a well on site, which will give them not only better water for their farm, but should be cheaper in the long run than buying city water. We also, Becca presented to us about the Tarrant area food banks, community garden outreach programs. They're trying to expand ways for the food bank to be able to serve community gardens so that people can grow their own. Oh, I also had this note sideways. Great job, Victoria and Jay. I appreciate your presentation, but more importantly, I appreciate all the work that you do and that y'all are getting accomplished. Susie and I have a crop planting webinar for Grow North Texas on April 6th. We scheduled it for a little earlier. I don't have the time right in front of me. I think we did 4 o'clock on April 6th. Thanks, Susie. So that's it's a crop planting webinar, and it's kind of targeted towards people starting farms, but it'll also be able to, if you're just starting a garden, it'll be useful for you as well. So our next CGUA meeting will be May 20th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. And in between now and then, you should plant as many tomatoes as you can.
Thanks, Charlie. And that webinar is free. So come join us and learn about, how to plan what you'd like to have for harvesting. That's basically the gist. All right, next we have Children's Health Working Group. Bahista and Alexandra.
Good
there she is.
afternoon. Yes, I'm here. I learned last in watching one of the playbacks that the recording is in gallery view, and so I opted to turn my camera off just to be on the safe side in case I forgot. So updating on the Children's Health Working Group, the last time we mentioned that we were waiting to hear back about a grant we had applied for. Unfortunately, we did not get approved for that funding at this time, but we did have an opportunity to meet with the organization and get a bit more insight as to how we would be successful if we were to apply for that grant in the future, and also some action steps we can take in the in-between time. We do still want to work toward policy regarding the way that sugary beverages are marketed in restaurants. And of course, we have long-term goals around, children's menus in general. But there were a few different reasons why the grant was not approved at this time. But one of the biggest ones is the fact that our local government is going to be undergoing an overhaul in this next election. So, with that element of the unknown, it was challenging for them to really consider proceeding with the funding at this time. Bahista, do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, just that if anyone watching has interest in this policy work and a passion for improving the health of restaurant menus for kids, we would love to have you join our group. And if you have policy expertise, we would so appreciate it. And then Alexandra, if you just want to tell them about our next meeting.
Yes, so we meet even months on the third Wednesday. We recently changed our schedule, my apologies. but we will be meeting this month on the 21st. So it's the third Wednesday of even months at 10:30 a.m. I'll drop my contact information in the chat. And if you are interested, please reach out, let us know, and we'll be thrilled to keep you in the loop. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. That is really exciting to be able to be considered. And I sat in on the meeting with the funder, and there really was a lot of support and a lot of resources shared for any work that's able to be done going forward with the resources that we have right now. Okay, Food Recovery Working Group. Gina.
Hi, I'm Gina Hill. I co-lead the Food Recovery Working Group. We actually did not get to meet last month as planned, but our next meeting will be on May 12th, which is the second Wednesday, just to throw these second and third and whatever Wednesdays, the second Wednesday of odd months. And we meet from 12:30 to 1:30. So that would be May 12th, and anyone is welcome to join us. If you're interested in doing anything food recovery, we've done things in the past related to schools and different community areas trying to do food recovery. We've had a kind of a difficult year because a lot of our focus in the past has been in schools, and schools were very limited on volunteers this year because of COVID. But we're hoping that the doors will open up for the next academic year in that area, and we're hoping that we can get some momentum going again on that. I am going to put my email address in the chat, so please feel free to reach out to me if you would like to join us next month. And just like Bahista said, if you love policy and you don't love food waste, come on over. Okay.
Thanks, Gina. Appreciate that, and all that you guys are doing in all of the working groups. You're doing a just fantastic job. Okay. Do we have anything else from any of the officers or board members to share? Anybody catch up on anything? I was going to mention the webinar on Tuesday if Charlie didn't mention it. So thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else have questions that we that you want to ask in the, or do you have something you'd like to share? Any other community events going on that you'd like people to know about, or general things like that?
Well, slightly related to, just the fact that we've been talking about policy. Of course, one of the huge things that comes into play with that is voting. And quite a few of the vaccination registration sites are also doubling as voter registration sites. So make sure to keep track of those deadlines. Thanks.
Yes, and Becca just reminded everyone that if you have a question, if you're one of the attendees, just raise your hand. And if you have a comment, she can give you permission to speak, to turn your video on. Yes, it is. It's also Texas legislative season. And so hopefully you're getting some emails about ways you can be supportive of bills that support good food and farm policies. I know there's several that are pertinent to our group that are around or have been submitted this session, but it's a little bit of a crazy session. They're allowing some testimony, but going to the Capitol is something that everybody wants to do right now. So I think we're experiencing a different year as far as policy goes in general. Also, local elections, pay attention to those local elections. Those are very, very important in terms of what's going on. Other things? happening to share? Harrison, you want to tell us when that next meeting is again?
Sadie had her hand up. So Sadie, I
Okay.
don't know. I tried to give you permission to speak, but so if you can, go for it.
Hi, my name is Sadie Murray. I'm the chair of the Ridership Committee for the Tarrant Transit Alliance. So we've been organized for about 4 years now, trying to also influence policy and funding for public transportation. So while to me, there's a huge intersection between food security and transportation. So just wanted to let everyone know that Trinity Metro, our local transit authority, is having one of their final meetings for the system redesign that they're currently undergoing on April the 6th, I believe, or it might be the 7th. It's on their website, Ride Trinity Metro. So if you have any of the people who you serve who ride the bus, this is a great opportunity to chime in, because some entire bus lines will be going away and being replaced. And of course, it's an election year. We're trying to really get the vote for transit out. So I'll be reaching out. I've been collecting emails. So I think Tarrant Transit Alliance could have some awesome partnerships with some of the groups working here. So thank you so much for the work that you do for our communities.
Thank you, Sadie. Appreciate the work you're doing as well.
I'm gonna hop in on that real quick, Susie. Hey, Brenda, and anyone else who, hey, Michelin, everyone who is working on the farmers market nutrition program. I think that would be a good idea for us to be able to leverage that into a bus stop near our farmers market. Somehow, if we can make other people recognize that that's a good idea, it seems like those things should coincide.
Charlie, do you mean near the permanent Cowtown market or all of the summer markets?
For me, I mean near us. I know there are some near the WIC clinics, and I don't know the bus routes over there. I just know that there's not one near us.
Got it. Thank you.
We have, Charlie, this is Brenda. We have had conversations with Trinity Metro about the bus stop near Cowtown, and I agree. I think it's a common conversation we need to continue to have, and maybe we can get with Sadie and educate ETA on that, and see how the board members could help us with that.
Yes, ma'am. I was thinking if we just attacked it from all angles, we might find a different avenue of a different avenue to get it approved.
Yeah, I agree. Sadie, is there an opportunity for maybe Food Policy Council to get in front of your board or one of your general meetings?
I have dropped my email in the chat, and I will reach out to our president. I think that would be really beneficial and awesome. I would love to leverage this network. We've got a lot of great people on our board. All of that information is available on the website. So yes, please do reach out and we can coordinate a time to present. We meet quarterly, the whole board meets quarterly, and then my committee meets once a month. I'm the chair of the Ridership Committee, so we're really focused on the rider experience and making sure people have a safe and awesome experience at the bus stop. So we're actually just in the middle of a project that we've worked with the Glen Park community that's been led by the community. We just announced the winners, that we have community design, a $400 bus stop that we're going to be able to install in 5 locations in Glen Park. Because the city, or not the city, but Trinity Metro's budget for a bus stop is about $100,000. So is there a way to sponsor a bus stop? I would love to get in touch with you about that. We're trying to we're putting together a toolkit to enable and empower other communities to take this design and put it up in their own communities. So yes, please do reach out. Again, my name is Sadie Murray, and that's my email there, ttaridership@gmail.com.
Sadie, I think one of our former board members is one of your board members now too, Jesse. He was just telling me about the urbanism project at Glen Park. So
yes, Jesse's on my committee.
Yeah, he was just telling me about that.
I love that you guys have designed this inexpensive bus stop, because I always think about people, you know, my experiences with DART in Dallas, and you'll have the bus stop sign, and who wants to stand just by a sign in the rain and the sun and the everything. So yes, maybe we can also move this over across the county line. Catherine, maybe that's something we can work with the coalition over here on as well.
We are the Tarrant regional, we're working on a regional approach because unfortunately most of this leads back to the state level and the lack of funding coming from the state, which also leads to lack of funding from the city of Fort Worth. So we definitely have a lot of policy conversations happening over at TTA and trying to be really strategic about that. So I'm excited to build some more partnerships.
That's great. Thanks for being here today. It's wonderful. Becca, do we have anybody else?
Yes. Well, maybe Sylvia, did you, I'll allow you to speak, and if you are still interested, go for it. So you should receive a notification.
Hi, so my name is Sylvia Rodriguez, and I own a nonprofit. It's called The Seed, and we do a bunch of stuff for the community. I see some people on here that I know. Hey, Harrison. And so the reason why I wanted to speak is because what is the partnership that you have with churches as far as delivering food to people who can't go to the bus stops and can't go to these events and can't go to different things like that?
Are you asking the Food Policy Council or Catholic Charities?
In general, because I have at my disposal two congregations that I had been just using and taking them to different locations and giving them my clients' information. But as we've been doing that, we've seen more and more of a need for it. And a lot of people aren't just able to go to these places to get food. And that just, it especially in 76104, 76105, that seems, it bothers me a lot because those are food deserts. I do a lot of voter registration. I speak on policy with Texas Democrat with Disabilities. I hold position on several boards here in Tarrant County as well. And that's what I'm hearing. I mean, they said, oh, we wish we would have known about it and things like that. So what kind of policy can we implement to kind of use in these churches that are, the congregation is ready and willing to help? We just need to have somebody to back that. And what?
That sounds like a programmatic kind of relational project, more than like a city policy. What kind of support? I mean, I think if Jay is still with us, maybe he can help connect you to some other groups that would be helping in 76104.
Yeah, I can put my email in a chat, Sylvia, and we can closely together. We have a phone call coming up next week, and we can get you to come on that call and talk a little bit about your work.
Okay, because as I am in the community helping with back to school events, different things like that, I just see more and more of a need of transportation being an issue. And a lot of times what I'm hearing is a lot of families have had disputes on buses or scared to take buses and have that whole ideology behind, the city buses and things like that. And that hinders them from being able to get other resources. So I think, there's so much now, even having come through this COVID and everything, people are more willing and to help out their fellow neighbors. So, and I think that'd be good to just, yeah, definitely. If you could put me on their call, I'll spearhead this.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Sylvia. I want to share board member Soraya Adibi couldn't be on with us, but she's been watching on Facebook, and she wanted to share the information about the EPA has environmental justice small grants. The application is open right now, and it's for community-based organizations and nonprofits, grassroots, basically small scale organizations and faith-based groups are eligible to apply. It's potential project. One of the potential projects related to COVID is focusing on food insecurity issues leading to excessive vehicle miles traveled due to the food access issues that's exacerbated in communities heavily impacted by COVID-19. Projects can include the development of urban agriculture and environmental workforce training programs, planning and education related to demonstration gardens and raised beds, and some other things. And Becca has posted the link to the grant in the chat. Thank you very much. And we can all check that out. So maybe that's a resource for some of us that are in the meeting today. Okay. Anything else from anyone?
I have something. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Hall with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. I just wanted to, I'm going to put a link in the chat for a community needs assessment that our organization is currently conducting. It's a statewide survey, but it does give participants the opportunity to put your zip code. So whenever you're going through and answering the questions, you will answer based on your community. And then, so it's really just to see what sort of programs our organization can create to help address some of the issues. And there, obviously, we can't address all the issues because that's not what our organization does, but it does kind of give us an idea on ways to move forward. And maybe we can, if there is a topic that we cannot address as an organization, we can reach out to the appropriate people who can. So feel free to share it with all of your contacts. It's whoever wants to answer it can. It takes about 10 minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Robin. Encourage people to check on that, click on that link and or copy and paste that link and complete the survey. Other things, announcements or things to share? Okay. All right, Harrison, our next general meeting is in June. What's the day?
That's right. Our next meeting is June 3rd at 4 p.m. and I'll post that in the chat as well. And we hope to see you all there, certainly.
All right, fantastic. If there's nothing else, I will wrap us up and say thank you again to our speakers and to the board members and each of you who has attended via Zoom or watching on Facebook. And we will see y'all in June. Thank you.
Yeah.